My class one extends component. Here we have written something, render function we have written. Okay. So under this component file, the class 1.js file you have created. In React, you have two type of component, one using the function, another one through the class. Function, when we use, it's called a functional component. When we use class base, it's called a class component. Functional component you saw, now we are into the class component. In class component, your class component will be, most of the time, almost functionality will be based on lifecycle function. It has some predefined functions. That function execute in a particular sequence. That function execute in a particular sequence. Okay, that sequence will be helping our program to produce the proper output. For example, in this file, we'll see HTML you are writing under the render function, where you are going to mix everything together. Your JavaScript code, HTML code, all you will be mixing together under the render function. And variable declaration you will do outside. Function writing you will do outside. Okay, out of the render, within the class only, but not inside the render. In functional component, there was only return. There was no any function called render. But in class component, we have a render function specifically. That is for the purpose of mixing your HTML and JavaScript code together and generating final output and produce to the browser. It can be to collect the input or it can be to give the output, but the render function is responsible for that. This is the part of your lifecycle function, render function. You will write here another class, another function, constructor. The constructor will be another lifecycle function of React that execute at first. Constructor execute at first. Whenever this class component will get called, the first priority will go to the constructor. Constructor is going to execute first. In a constructor, super function will be required. In constructor, super function will be required. After that, super function, why we are calling here? Because you have already extended the class. The component class we have extended already. So under the component class, there is some feature. That feature, like you can say render function or so many more are there. So those functions that is written under the component class, we are going to call that and we are going to use that predefined functions from the component class. It will support our program to execute in the proper sequence, and you will get a ready-made function. You don't have to write manually from your side. Okay, for that purpose, we are extending the component class. Why? Because inside the component class, we have many functions are there. Those functions are going to help us, our class, to execute in the proper sequence and proper manner. Okay, or instead of rewriting the code again and again, we are going to reuse the code that is exist under the component class. Okay. And whenever you extend a class, while extending the class, if you are using the constructor, while using the constructor, you have to remember in the parent class also there will be constructor, and in the child class also you have a constructor. Component becomes a parent class and the my class one becomes a child class. Under the component class, there will be constructor. That constructor will have some member variable. Those member variable we want to combine with our constructor. So instead of calling the variable directly, we call that constructor itself here. So this constructor super function, what is doing? It's going to call the constructor of parent class. You can say call the of going to call the constructor of parent class. With the parent class component. Component is the parent class. Inside the component, constructor will be there. Under a constructor, some member variable will be there. So that member variable is required in our project, in our class, so that we are saying, okay, constructor u itself comes. So once a constructor will come, then their definitely their member variable will be able to access in our class as well. Then in the functional component, if you remember, to create a state variable, you have used the use state, right? Use state variable we used to follow RD structuring we used to follow. Based on RD structuring, from the use state, function and variable used to come, and it was helping our program to make more dynamic. Here in class component, we don't have use state, but instead of that, we have another one is called set state. Okay, in class component, we have set state, and in the functional component, we have use state. So first we will understand how to create a state variable in class component. In the functional component, we have created a state variable already using use state. Now in class component, how to create a state variable, how to change the value of a state variable. If those concept is clear, then we can do the input output API call and then remaining others. So go inside. To create the state variable under the class component, we have to follow this dot state. This state variable is defined under the component class. This dot state equal to, just like the array object, you have to assign the value in that. Key and value, property and value. Suppose if you write called counter colon 100, counter colon 100, one variable. Okay. Next, in case if you want to create one more variable, suppose let me click as a create a variable called click 0. So this is like the key and value. Counter becomes a key, 100 is the value. Click is the key, 0 is the value, right? Next, come down. If you want to print the counter, we cannot call counter directly. Counter is a part of a state is a part of the class. So it's called this dot state dot counter will give you 100. This dot state dot click will give you the 0. So let's come inside the page now, and you can use here a h1 tag, class name, text ranger, this dot state dot. Okay. We can write here counter is dot state dot counter. Okay, hope ready. Let's come to the browser. No, I have closed that also. No, it was closed by log. click this dot, it dot, it's printing anything. What is the value of counter? 100. So in is 100. The counter is 100. Total click is how much? 0. So while creating a variable using the in the class component, the state variable, we can use this dot state. Now in case if you want to change the value of this variable counter, or you want to change the value of click, right? Class component has given a function. Function name is called set state. Class component has given a function. Function name is called set state. Using set state, we can change the value of state variable. Now how to do that? Let's come. First write our own function. One equal to one equal to call a function here, this dot set state. Dot set state. Inside that, you have to call your property name, that is called counter, and in that again you have to call the original state variable, that is called this dot state dot counter. Step summary. This dot state dot counter plus 5 comma, again you can call here. Now let us come down and create a variable, not variable, create a button. Click to plus by 5. Class name btn hyphen primary m3. On click, we can call a function this dot one, this dot one. Okay. So now on click, we are calling the function one. See, and the browser is closed. Something wrong. Button click. Nan came. NN. NN, YNN. Oh, this dot state we need to add here. This dot state dot counter. This dot state dot counter. Because counter is not directly your class variable. It is a state variable. So we have to call the state. This dot state dot counter. $100. If we click here, see your state variable is changing now. But how flow is happening, that we have to understand now. Come to the code. First go to your constructor, and in constructor create a variable called alert. Create a alert here, right from constructor. From constructor. Create one more alert in render. Right there from render. From render. Constructor and then render. Now create one more variable. Keep one more alert under the function one. Right from one. From one. Save it. Hope you are following me. Okay, next after that, we have to see which is executing first, whether constructor or render or function one, which function execute first. Alert we added in function one also, alert we added in the render also, alert we added in constructor also. Okay. Now when I went to the browser, you can see first is from constructor. When I do okay, second is from render, constructor, render. Let me reload again from beginning. from constructor, right? You can see from constructor first. Now in constructor, what you are doing? In constructor, you created the variable and assign some value. It can be default value or it can be empty value, but your variables are created here under the constructor. Now let me see next. Next, it's saying like from render. So life cycle function. First constructor executed and variable got created with the default value or empty value. Second render will come. Now render will take HTML code as well as your variable will be mixed together. Second render will come. Already variable is created under the constructor. Because of that, constructor executed first to create the variable. Variable is created under the constructor. Second render will come. Render will take the HTML and it will take the variable and it will display the default value. It will display the default value. That happen here. Once I do OK, you can say 100 came as a default value. Now next, so in that you saw the sequence which is executing first. First executing constructor. Constructor is the first point that execution happen. Second gone to your render. Second execution happening to the render. So what will be the benefit? Constructor will come. Constructor will create the variable. Render will mix variable and HTML together. And finally, render will say, yes, this is the output. It can be default value or can be empty value, but whichever the values are stored under the constructor, variables, state variable, it will get printed out. So default value appear here. Now, based on user interaction, if user interacting here, let me click here. I click here, right? It is saying from function one. Okay, no problem. Now go to the function one. Look at the function one. In function one, this line will execute and the old value of a state plus 5. So A plus B happen here. A plus B happen here. The value of A will be mixed with the value of B. And finally, the value of A plus B happen and again assigned to where? A only. Your counter is the A and this dot counter, this dot state dot counter plus 5. So this is exact like A equal to A plus B. The value of A plus B you combine together and finally you update it under the A variable. So same thing is happening here. The value of state old value plus 5 as a new value. Old plus new got merged together, addition happen and finally updated to a counter. So counter will hold 100 plus 5, 105 now. Let me go here, saying from the 1. If I do OK, then look next. Render is calling. Render is calling. Now why render is calling? Because function 1 has modified the value of counter variable. The function 1 has modified the value of counter variable. And as soon as you modify the value of counter variable, what should happen? It should reflect in the browser. It should reflect in the browser. But counter, wherever you are printing inside another function that is called render function. Correct? So here under the class component, whenever you do any modification under the state variable, so here what you are doing? You are doing modification, right? You are changing the old value of state with the new value. That meaning your state variable is getting modified here. And as soon as the state variable will get modified, the render lifecycle function will call automatically. No need to call the render manually. It will get called automatically. Once it will call automatically, what it will do? Again, it will check what is the counter value and what is the click value. And whichever the counter value and click value is there, it will reflect in your browser. That's how it is working. So you can say in the sequence, constructor execute first, variable declaration will happen. After that, render will execute next. default value will get printed in the browser. User will get busy for some time. Next after that user will become busy with the default value. After that, if user will click, then remaining process will happen. If user will click somewhere, what will happen? It will modify the state variable, and once the state variable will get modified, the render will call automatically. Once the render will call automatically, it will look what is the updated value. Updated value will reflect in the browser. So hope it is clear for you. Let me come in the browser and show you again. Now when I go here, when I go here and click on this, alert will happen. When we click on this, alert will happen. Alert will not happen now. The as soon as click happen here, value got changed. That meaning you are calling the function one. Function one is calling the set state, and set state is calling the render every time, every time. Right? Hope it's working. Create create one more button here. Here now you need to change the counter variable also. Click this dot state dot click plus 1. Every click, the value should increase by 1. Whenever we click, the value should increase by 1. Function 2 minus 10 minus 10. Check now. The first button will increase by 10, 5, and second button will decrease by 10. Overall, you are modifying the value of state variable. Okay, hope working. Okay, next after this, let's come to the same state variable. Here, create a variable called user. Store inside some name of the users. Some users we can add here. We'll come down again. This array. So user become a array. So you have to write this dot state dot user dot map. This dot state dot user dot length. This dot state dot user of 1. You will get Raju. Okay, user you cannot access directly since it is the part of a state and a state is a part of the class. So this has to come. Then your state has to come. After that your object name will come. We can print here after button, or maybe after 12 you can create one more division. Called LG3. Total user this dot state dot user dot length. This dot state dot user dot length. See, total users are 7. Come down. This dot state dot user dot full name mapping part remains same. Only before variable name, this will apply. This dot state will apply. This much will be new always. This dot state dot your variable name. Remaining map function, looping, you can say other key index, table tr, th, all remain same. This dot state dot variable name. Directly you are not calling the variable, you are calling using the state. See now, all the users are printing here. Okay, next let's come to the again. We'll leave this file. We can create another file next. So hope it is working. Instead of use state, we are following this dot set state. Create next file, class2.js. In class2.js, till constructor you can copy from previous file. Okay, next after that, let it be class name is a class 2 super state user. Keep user as a empty array. User is a empty array. Export default class 2. Render will have return container empty 45. Call is the 12. Data from JSON API. Text center, text primary. Next, after that, come to the routing page. Link this also in the routing. Okay, come to app.js file. Import my class 2. You can add a link again. After adding the link, add a route path, routing, give class to my class 2. Check now. JSON data from API. Page is loading. We can come in that file. Which file? My class 2. Then we can create a table here. Class name table you can give. PR th. In JSON server, what are the details we have? Name, mobile, age, education. Mobile, age, education. And all. Name, mobile, age, education. And then action. Action I added the TD, should be TH only. Okay, so in this, the data will come from the same JSON server. You are getting the data here from where? User list. This data will appear here also under the class 2. I have sent you one message in your WhatsApp. You can check once. In that, in group I have sent. There is one URL. In that URL, there is multiple sets. In that set, the set number 6 page is designed using HTML. Set number 6 page is designed using HTML. Let me open the URL. It is in your WhatsApp. lms.com. Assignments. Yeah, so in this URL, If you come down, here you can see set number 6. The URL I have shared in the chat. In that, the set number 6 is there. In the set number 6, in the set number 6, if you click on these photos, okay, if you click on these photos, suppose I click here. Now you have to create a project in React that should look like this. You have to create a project in React that should look like this, where this is the head upper section, this is the middle section navigation, this is the left side, this is the bottom. And for all these pages, how many links are there on the top? 5 links are there. So you can see here 5 photos are there. 5 photos. Each photos are different type. But final target is what? Whenever you click on any of the link, your component should load here under the white block. Whichever the link you click, the component should load under the white block. Whichever the link we click, the component should load under the white block. It is a static page, but you have to create some 5-6 pages, add something, and whenever you click on this, that link should page should appear in the right side. That is one homework for you till now. If you are able to complete and send me the photo, excellent. Again, we'll see this API part tomorrow. So clear now? You need to do this assignment. You have to set up a new project in React. After doing the new setup, in that you have to create this all the pages. Whereas if you click on any link, the content will appear under the middle section. You can do that, and after doing that, if you feel free, you can send the screenshot in the group. It will be helpful to understand. Yes, really you are doing. After completion. Okay. See you tomorrow again. कैमरा में देख सकते हैं कौन सा दिखता नहीं है नीचे वाला Okay, so let's go to your folder. We have to create one more.
Sir, your previous recording is still going on.
Previous recording. Yeah, we need to stop.